Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. It's going to be a pretty fun show today because I have Kristen Meghan coming on, who is a military veteran and a health freedom activist friend of mine that I've known from the old school Ron Paul days back in 2012. But before we bring her on, because we did have her on the Prepperpalooza, this will be our first really big, juicy episode, I want to say hi to my wonderful co-host, Josh Shigala of Voltoro. Hey, Josh, how are you?
Tatiana, it is just wonderful once again to be on the show. I'm doing very well. Haven't got the COVID yet, so that's good.
Glad to hear you're keeping it alive.
Yeah.
Are you back in town? Like, is it scary in Berlin?
Oh, not really. Berliners, they've been through it all. They've seen the wall, they've seen communism, they've dealt with everything. The whole city's been flattened and they've rebuilt it. So they're just like, oh, all right, well, let's just deal with this.
Wait, but maybe they should be more willing to push back. I never really thought about that.
A lot of people are demoing and stuff in the city, and Germany's been really top actually with the whole case thing. They tested kind of early, and they've got heaps of hospitals because every part of Berlin had different sectors. There was American sector after the wall came down, American sector, British sector, French sector, and they all had their own hospitals. So there's so many hospitals here, it's insane. And actually, just before this pandemic happened, they were going to close a bunch of them, but luckily they didn't. And we got so many beds. I think 1,300 were being taken with COVID patients, and we got 7,000 beds. So it's all good.
Okay, well, I'm glad that people are pushing back a little bit. But I don't know. I think that there's a lot of pushback all around the world. And that was one of the things that was making me excited to talk to Kristin, because she's from Michigan, and we're going to let her kind of give the lay of the land there. But I'm curious how it's panning out all around the world, because I think some people are getting sick of the lockdown. I am over it. I'm done. I'm just annoyed with it. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do in order to show that I'm done. I would maybe go to a rally or something. In New Jersey, they had one a couple days ago, maybe last week, but I wasn't able to go because I found out about it too last minute. But we've got a lot of...
Are you going to wear your bubble suit when you're there?
No, I'm going to tell them I'm going to wear my angry face, and I'm going to have a shirt that says something slightly aggressive, maybe, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'll go and soften it up and keep it light and stuff. But no, I'm getting very annoyed. I don't really enjoy being a slave, and I know that we're all kind of slaves in a certain way, but this is a little bit much for my taste. And I think that it's a little bit much for Kristen Meghan. She's not a person that likes the boot on her neck. She's been fighting the power. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Kristin, military veteran and health freedom activist extraordinaire. Thank you so much for joining the Tatiana Show.
Oh, good to see you again, as always.
Awesome.
As a health freedom activist, that's a pretty tough job right now, I got to say. You got to work it out for you.
What's crazy is for the past 18 years, I've actually worked in the field of occupational environmental toxicology. So basically, I have to know, in the workplace, what can hurt somebody from every angle, and how does that workplace impact the environment. So it's like I've never seen an event worldwide completely hone into my career field. So I'm raising my hands you are doing it all wrong, especially when it comes to the mask. So yeah, I've been actually really busy. I thought that during quarantine, in the beginning, I was like, man, I am so bored. And then now it's my schedule is insane.
Well, I'm happy that you're keeping it filled, doing a lot of activist-y stuff. You're always really clear voice. Before we break down what's happening in Michigan, can you give us a little bit of a background, of your military service, and then some of the things that brought you to sort of your awakening? Because, like you said, you've had a very long career, and I don't think that you started out thinking you'd end up where you are now.
Absolutely not. All right. So I spent 9 years on active duty in the Air Force, and, I joined right after 9/11. And my job in the Air Force is I worked in a career field called bioenvironmental engineering, which is somewhat kind of like what I said before. And now I just do the civilian version. But, I want to say it was around 2006 or 2007. My brother actually brought me over a DVD to watch when I was at home visiting. And it was, despite what everyone thinks nowadays of Alex Jones, it was an Alex Jones documentary called Terror Storm. And, being in the military.
I used to give them out.
Yeah. So
I used to burn them like crazy. Just give them out
I lived in England for 2 years. I was stationed there, and, with the whole London 7 and everything, at first it was like, oh my gosh, like I joined the military thinking there's all these bad people in sandboxes, and I started watching it and it made so much sense that I kind of just went down a rabbit hole. And that was really before like social media was really big. We had MySpace back then. So, just hard copy DVDs. I got bootleg DVDs and I started watching them. And then kind of being on the inside of the military, some of the things that people were saying, leaked memos, I'm like, they're not lying, and it just came to a point where I feel like if I hadn't seen that film, I would have kind of like awakened myself because of things I was seeing in the military that were completely unethical. Like my job is to make sure people are safe and that they're not dying in the military, just doing their job peacetime, like not being exposed to cancer if they're sanding aircraft and things like that, or working around radiation. And it just really became about money. And, well, if these people are working unsafe and it's been that way for 10 years, well, we can't tell them because, it will scare them. I mean, just totally unethical operations. I'm known as a whistleblower on 2 different issues in the military, and that's a show for another day. But basically, the military and government trained me to do a job, and when I started doing it, that's when I realized I could do my job better as a civilian, and I got out. I got out after 9 years. And
that's really interesting, because just to step in there, we've interviewed a few people through the military, some Tatiana's friends, and one of them in particular really doesn't see any of the bad things of the military, it seems like, and it would seem to me, if I was in the military too, I would often definitely see some of the bad points, but that's because I'm looking in from the outside and I've always been skeptical. But it's interesting to see that you quickly saw the corruption within the establishment, because it is its own establishment.
Do a lot of people see it? By the way, just to add on to Josh's point, like, do you think that a lot of other people see it that early on and they see the corruption? I mean, is everybody just going along, and how many people are kind of breaking out of that mold?
You would think it'd be like a clear cut, like these type of people versus these type of people. But at first I thought it was just like the younger people getting into the military. And then while I was in and since I've been out, I realized it's the people that have been in 18, 20 years that finally are like, they're at the end now. And they're like, kind of, you compare it to that senioritis in high school where, when you're in the middle of your career, you're almost offended when people try to wake you up. You're offended. It's your livelihood. It's your way. It's like a slap in the face. But if you have personal integrity, which everyone's supposed to have in the military, you can't deny the things that, even if you don't see it, because there's so many jobs in the military. Not everyone saw things that I saw because of my type of job. But you can't avoid things that are in the media now and in social media. And I'm starting to see more people kind of getting like poking the bear, so to speak, like Nemo touching the boat. Like they're speaking out and fearing less retribution and reprisal because I think people are realizing they can make it on the outside. And that's usually what silences people. They're used to that money and that housing. And you make good money in the military. You do. It's tax-free. And it's awesome to me how many people will send me emails, and they're all high-ranking officers in the military that are like, I can't do this anymore. Like, thank you for speaking out, like, and bringing up other people. I won't name drop them because they're not public about their whistleblowing, but I can't really just answer it black and white because it's really just on the person and someone's ability to actually uphold their oath. The people that are gung-ho military, the military brats, their parents were in the military, those are the hardest ones to crack because it's so offensive to them. and they just can't see outside of everything they've ever known.
That's an interesting point, because right now I think, it's nice to be able to see a little bit of a compassionate side to the military, because I think it really is made up of our boys and girls, right? All these kids that ended up going into the military because of their family, and they, I think that you do learn some good things in terms of discipline and stuff, and it's considered to be honorable. But as a civilian, I feel very pitted against them, because at the end of the day, they are the booted thugs of government that essentially will kill us all, right? They've done it. I just saw the Waco thing, right? That didn't look good. I mean, that was the military. I guess it was like FBI and CIA, but either way, not good, right? I don't trust those guys. But as we get things a little bit more accelerated, especially with people pushing back on COVID, I think it's good to be sympathetic to people in the military, because they can actually be big allies, right? And one of the organizations early on that you and I think I was familiar with, was Oathkeepers. And they were basically making an effort for military and law enforcement to remember their oath to the Constitution. And fast forward to the times that we're in right now, aside from the military, there's obviously this big escalation in Michigan. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on over there?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring up the whole them being allies. Here in Michigan, our Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she when she first came in office, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, but I didn't actually mind her because she was pro the legalization of marijuana, which sounds funny just to support someone for that reason. But if it gets less people out of prison, hey. And there were no issues with her. And then COVID came around. And she started out just bashing Trump and bashing the federal government because she said she wasn't getting aid that she needed. And then it came out that she had never submitted the paperwork required to receive that type of aid. And instead of being an honorable leader and saying, my apologies, this is unprecedented, I've never had to do this, she didn't backpedal. She gets mean, she gets spiteful. And that whole argument with her and Trump is what propelled her into the media. And somehow the national spotlight's been put on her to say that she's been this great leader and doing great things. And she's, she's the lead person to be picked as Biden's running mate. And of course, that's why yesterday she was on The View. She's on Good Morning America. She's being interviewed by Elle magazine. I mean, it's like she's a beauty queen that's just going around and doing these interviews. And I'm not mocking her as far as her appearance and stuff. I'm just saying she is a beautiful woman, and by the way, she definitely has fresh Botox and roots, but that's for another day because we can't do that. But what spiraled out of control again was the Trump argument, and I was not against staying home. Being a voluntarist, I don't need the government to tell me what to do. I stayed home for a good 4 weeks, and my family did, and we did the grocery delivery and everything, and then we had the extension on our stay-at-home order. And when that extension occurred, she made it worse. We literally could not, despite what anyone outside of Michigan tells you, we couldn't even buy a flag. We couldn't buy seeds. We couldn't buy any non-essential things. You couldn't buy, there's stories that popped up of people's bathtubs leaking. They had to get a manager and show pictures to show that they needed caulking because there was a leak in their home. I mean, home repairs, you couldn't buy anything. And it's you had to ask your mom to be able to buy anything. Even now, going to the gas station, I can't get a coffee from the gas station. And to some people that seems petty, oh, you can't have your coffee. That's not the point. It's the hypocrisy of we can have this, but we can't have that. You have businesses where landscapers couldn't perform any landscaping, even if they worked independently. What is the risk there? If you're working outside laying fertilizer or seed, you're not harming anybody. You're out there in that natural cross ventilation. And the unions push back down her big time. And if you go back to, I'm sure you guys all heard about Operation Gridlock in Michigan, where there was around 100,000 people that drove to Lansing, Michigan. And I got emotional. I was there live streaming. It was so peaceful. It was so amazing to see so many people that were Democrats and Republicans and anarchists and independents that were there. And the day after that peaceful protest, she added more orders, and she blamed it on the protesters, saying If you're going to come out here and rally and not social distance and wear your masks, you're putting everyone at risks. And now guess what? Now you can't do A, B, and C. Now you can't even go on a boat. Now you can't even hang out with people outside of your own home. So if you were driving and you got pulled over, the cops could ask you for both IDs. And if you weren't from the same home, you could be ticketed for violating that stay-at-home order. If that's not Gestapo, I don't know what is.
Wo sind deine Papiere? That's what they
But
say.
I mean, it's so horrible here. It's like someone's going to write a book about this experience. What happened was on April 30th, her emergency powers expired. So anything after April 30th, our state legislator had to vote to approve any further emergency powers. Now that is separate from the stay-at-home order, but her emergency powers are what can grant her the ability to extend the stay-at-home orders. Well, we had a very peaceful rally there, and the governor called us racist and white supremacists, and that we intimidated everyone at the Capitol because people were open carrying, which is legal here in Michigan. It's illegal to carry on the Capitol, in the Capitol, like no issues. There's photos of the Michigan State Police taking happy photos with the militia, shaking their hands, no issues. But then the next day at one of Whitmer's press conferences, she's telling you that the police feared for their lives, that there was politicians inside of the Capitol wearing bulletproof vests. And just so you know, she was mad because guess what? That legislator voted no. They shut down her powers. And the very next day, she unconstitutionally, through federal constitution and the Michigan Constitution, she extended her powers anyway. She's acting right now illegally. She has basically acted like a toddler, and she is definitely going after people who are not supporting her or aligning with her. And now the use of mandating masks is really making people wear their political views on their sleeves. You know, people could walk peacefully and not have to share what they believe, but generally people that are against her are not wearing masks. And it's not unsafe. It's that we all know, unless you have an N95 and you're wearing a mask that's designed to be rated to protect you from a virus, it's pointless. So those are just a few items. I mean, I could go on and on, but I definitely want to see if you guys have any more questions or anything that you've heard from being across the way.
This is crazy, bonkers. I can't even believe that people are giving this lady a podium. She's horrifying. As if what is up with the Democratic Party? I don't even care about elections. I think it's all a rigged job. If they're trying to get Trump elected, they're doing a good job because this woman is terrifying. What kind of fools are believing her? And I mean, I guess the answer would be easy, right? Everybody on TV is being forced to basically propagate this nonsense, right? I mean, the masks to me are a joke. Sorry. Okay, in the beginning, you do your thing, blah, blah, but no, I'm sorry. I'm Polish. We're made of good stock. I'm not afraid of the disease. And everybody else who is, like, I kind of am growing to have a disdain for them as human beings, but I will tolerate them. This is insane. I heard that she's not letting you guys open carry because then at the next rally, because then she's authorized the police to allow them to be arrested for open carrying, but that's constitutionally protected. So how does that even work? Or is that an exaggeration?
So what she likes to do is, which is funny because she's an attorney, what she likes to do is we have laws on the books. And in Lansing, there are Capitol Police, there's the Michigan State Police, and because the Capitol is located in Lansing, you have 3 jurisdictions that are over it, and they don't all agree. So actually what's really awesome is, just a side note, the Lansing police is saying, if you have any issues, call us. But the Capitol, we are allowed to open carry on the steps, on the property, and inside. And she just did a press conference the other day, and for people who don't know the law, she says, anyone open carrying at the Capitol is basically has a chance to be arrested, which you think to yourself, like, you can't just change the law. Again, she likes to pretend our state legislator does not exist. Then the Michigan State Police did a video, and I think they're embarrassed for her. Like, they had to come out with their public liaisons and do a little Facebook corny video, and they said, you know, this is what you can expect tomorrow. Just to let you know, you may see people carrying. If you choose to open carry, please do so in a safe manner. And if you watch any of the footage of anyone open carrying, especially if they're long guns or rifles, they have the safety trigger finger along the barrel like you're supposed to. Anyone who's ever been trained on the use of guns or rifles knows how to carry it. And they just said, please don't brandish the weapons. And that's what Whitmer likes to say, that people were brandishing weapons. This isn't like Wile E. Coyote. No one's pointing at anybody. It's facing upward. It's facing downward. They're holstered. They're strapped on. So they were just reminding people, please don't point it. And so it was like they have to support her, but at the same time, they're correcting her. So I've been watching live footage. There's a protest today at the Capitol. I usually go to every single one, but I'm going out of town today to escape my house arrest. But anyway, I've been watching live footage all morning, and it seems peaceful. It's horrible weather here today, but people have their umbrellas. I saw people standing and having a peaceful conversation with the Michigan State Police on the footage. And, you know, you can tell from body language, you know, the cops are just kind of swaying and just talking. I mean, the governor would want you to believe that the Michigan State Police are just so against these militias, and it's absolutely false. I actually think they can't say it, but I think they feel safer, because at the rally that I spoke at about a week and a half ago, where we had 2 African-American speakers, by the way, but we were racist and white supremacists. At that rally, there was one, I don't know if it was a purposeful provocateur, but there was one person that just came in and didn't want us there and just started kicking people. And they were detained, and the militia, you know, helped bring them to the police. Like, the militia didn't try to flex and do a citizen's arrest. Like, there was a respect of, like, this is your jurisdiction. And that's the stuff you won't hear in the media, but that's what they're doing. These people are trained. Many of them are veterans. Like, they're not just wild people. And I think it's so funny how, you know, all of a sudden there's all this fear of people open carrying in the Capitol. However, there was a Democratic, I can't remember if she was a member of the state Senate or Congress. She had like members, I don't know if they were an African-American militia, but there was like 7 or 8 of them that were carrying her and escorting her into the building. But if she's so afraid of these guns, she's using people with guns. Like the legislator, including Whitmer, has used this as not only control, but it's a purposeful divide. And race is a huge issue here. I mean, she will lead the public to believe that anyone opposing her stay-at-home orders is a racist. And I don't usually get offended. I am this close. I am so close, Tatiana, to filing a lawsuit against the governor. She has us in images calling us. I'm in images, I'm on footage, calling me a white supremacist. And normally I chalk that up as whatever, but that is harmful. I hate people equally. I'm not going to dislike you because of the color of your skin. Absolutely not. So that's just some of the mind and brainwashing that occurs here in this state.
Yeah, but it's not only there. We have demos here in Berlin, and the demos are full of lefties, righties, anti-vaxxers. Like, there's a whole bunch of different people of different spectrum. It's not like one single movement of a certain philosophy. It's just everyone saying, hey, where's our freedoms gone? And they always get brandished as right-wing radicals. It's really strange. It's a really strange thing to constantly brand people. It's like some sort of brush you can just quickly brandish on them, and then everyone goes, oh, crazy dickheads, you know. And instead, and I've noticed that in multiple countries. So it's not just in Michigan. Yeah.
Do you guys feel like this is a race issue? Because I was seeing one of those, you know, the graphs where they've got the circles that layer over each other. And then it was popular to have one, oh, I'm worried about the virus. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about this. Now there's a new one with a 4th circle. And the circle says, this shows me that the world is racist and institutionally wrong. And I was like, Is this a racism question? It just seems like government is bad at everything and they should stay out of most things, and there's a lot of evil people overlording. Like, I don't see a racial component to this. Some people would say because African American people are maybe suffering from the disease more, but there might be some like more propensity for diabetes, for example, in that community as well. So it's like, what are you talking about racist? Am I missing something? Because to be called a racist is so stupid in this. Like, why, what does race have to do with anything? Like, what are white supremacists really into COVID? Like, what, how does that work?
Yeah.
It all started out because at the Gridlock rally, which I live streamed for 4 hours, so everyone that has opinions that wasn't there, they can, well,
Watch the live stream.
They can do other things. But there was signs, and I have the images all on my phone. I took the pictures where there's like a swastika, and it says "Hail Whitmer" on it. Like, people are mocking her, calling her a tyrant. So because that is there, she will report in her briefing, there were Nazis there, and then now this is the only one that is debatable.
Well, they would be obedient to her, these Nazis. They would almost be good kind of Nazis because she's in charge. And they're willing to do her bidding.
It's in jest calling her a Nazi, but she's calling us Nazis. And the only thing that's kind of like indifferent is there's people that had like a noose saying tyrants, like basically implying like tyrants get hung. And it's like, I always tell people, you have to take your emotion out of things and look at the facts. Let's look back at history and see what's happened to so-called tyrants. You know, they have been hung throughout history. And it's just a saying, it's not an implied threat. The only thing that she could even attempt to take as a threat is people are pushing for a citizen's arrest for her. But that's not like a violent, you know, threat towards her. That's called self-defense. Like, you are violating our rights. And the thing with the whole race thing is that's what she does. If she can find an ounce of anything to twist in the media, she just says these things. There were Nazis, there were racists, because somebody had a Confederate flag in the back of a truck among 100,000 people in vehicles. So now the whole entire rally consists of Nazis and white supremacists. And because the militia was there, you know, then we have Proud Boys and, you know, white apologists. Like, she just will take anything to change the narrative. And as soon, it's like when you're researching something and you find something to support your own belief, you kind of just really dig into that. So as soon as someone just throws a little crumb out there to say any reason to bash these protests or rallies, she runs with it. She truly runs with it. And what is so funny about it is that I'm sure you saw the image of a man, his name is Brian, and he's a Facebook friend of mine. He's the one that you see. It's a famous image. It went international of him yelling sideways, and there's 2 Michigan State Police. Well, he was yelling through the police because behind him, I don't know if you saw this story, a day prior to that rally, there's a chiropractor here who also is like big into liberty. She is a doctor. Very just kind of, I'll let you know, she discloses this publicly. She has PTSD from a previous assault. Well, on video in the Capitol, she's there with a press pass. She runs Michigan United for Liberty. She was drug out of her seat and drug across the stairs. She had to have x-rays and scans and everything. She was beat up basically by being drug across these wooden stairs and hit her head. It was, I have the video on my Twitter. It's absolutely awful. And by the way, she had press credentials and was told she had a 1-day pass. But because she's an activist and some of the people in the Senate don't want her there, I guess you can just pick and choose people's rights. So I tell you that story because that man that was yelling saw the sergeant at arms, we call them redcoats because they wear red jackets, saying, "Hey, I saw what you did to Dr. Darling. You going to do that to me?" Like, that's what he was yelling. But the media was saying, this white supremacist, and apparently there's a well-known white supremacist, I forgot his name, people thought that was him because they both have a beard. So this man, Brian, has had his name smeared. People are saying he's a white supremacist and was paid for by the DeVos family to come here. And it's so funny to actually witness something and see the media spin it. And luckily, a lot of media outlets have done a retraction and interviewed Brian. But those are just the little things, you know. That's why it's so important for everyone to live stream. An image can be twisted in any way. And there was actually video of that happening. So there was another angle to see he wasn't yelling at the police. And every rally I've been at, I've seen no altercations with the police at all. Never. And I've been to 4. So it's just mind-blowing to me how this media has twisted this whole entire thing and just labeled us all as just violent racists.
Well, I feel like they're kind of waking up a sleeping giant, though. You know, because the people that are going to these rallies who are motivated enough to go, like, they have eyeballs, they're talking to each other, they're seeing what's going on. I don't think that they're just going to go home and say, you know what, maybe I should have worn my mask. I'm just going to be more obedient. And how dare I try and buy some seeds? Like, there's going to be, I think, a lot of people that are going to be pushing back, even though I'm disappointed and disgusted with the sheeple. And I don't really call people sheeple, but I mean, you know, if the mask fits. So, I don't know. Like, what do you see that on the ground? I mean, do people seem like they're getting more inflamed? Do you think they're going to keep taking this crap? Because once everybody realizes how much power they have, that's when the government's really going to fall apart. Maybe, if we're lucky.
What has really propelled people, even from her own party, to just be fed up is that there's a graphic that she has created, and it's in all these colors, and it's 6 phases until we can return to a new normal. We are currently in the 3rd phase, and I just want to tell you that the 6th phase is when we are allowed to attend sporting events and large gatherings, but there needs to be a vaccine or a strong treatment or cure. And when you look that we're only at phase 3 and we've got Memorial Day coming up, before you know it'll be 4th of July. I really think that,
man. People got to have parties. This is ridiculous. This is America. It's infuriating. Like, if you think of 4th of July, and if these wusses stay in their houses, I'm going to be so disgusted with people. It's horrible.
The saddest thing is, as Europe's starting to open up on the 15th of June, we're going to start opening up borders. Foreign workers can start crossing again. There's a lot of foreign workers that live on borders of different countries. So, for instance, South Italy will go to Switzerland to work in the smelters, in the gold smelters and stuff like that. And these are all starting to open up and things will happen. The problem is that I see is that America is really going to be left as a decimated economy without the ability to really charge at the rest. You know, everyone else is going to start making deals, gaining a step up on the United States. And, you know, I guess some people like AJ and stuff would then scream and shout that this is the globalists trying to destroy the American, way of leading the world in terms of everything free market, sadly.
What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com.
But one thing I did want to just quickly change the conversation, if that's okay, a little bit to the freedom, the activism that you do in health freedom, because I feel that not only are we looking at dictatorial powers and media manipulation like you're talking about, Kristin, in just the United States, it's global. And when I used to search Google, you know, everyone left Google, like a lot of my friends left Google a long time ago, just purely because they're such spying sort of, intense tracking types. But, I always found the search engine to be handy because it's a good search engine, Maps is great, all the rest of that. But I have now finally made the jump over to DuckDuckGo, because when you search for anything to do with health anymore, all you get is officialdom, CDC, WHO. It doesn't matter what you search for. We search for some, I don't know, like things to do with, teeth or anything. It's nothing to do with COVID. You just get officialdom. And it's super hard to find any natural any natural solutions, and it used to always be there. It was only like 4 months ago where it was all there. It's a definite change. This COVID thing has definitely brought something else, and it's really, really scary actually how manipulated everyone is. And I've seen natural news people actually post their statistics, and it's like a week and then boom, traffic gone because they've just removed them from Google. And they are the new media. You talk about media manipulation on the mainstream, but yeah, Google is the new media.
These big companies, YouTube is a total joke right now. You can't get monetized. You can't even find videos anywhere. Where are we going to go? Because, we've got the Float app. Kingsley and Aaron are working on that, and there's a few other cool projects. But for the most part, people haven't had a chance to migrate quickly enough. Do you think that people are going to start going somewhere else? Does it even matter? Is it just going to be an echo chamber? Or is that echo chamber good because we've got a strong core group of people that are willing to fight and be eliminated by the, evil dogs that are jumping around? Did you guys see those? Like the robot dogs? Like, what the freaking hell's going on? Who's letting this fly?
So I live right outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's the second biggest city in the state. And about 30 to 40 minutes south of me is where they're developing the vaccine at Pfizer, right there in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And one thing that scares me about it, well, first of all, the vaccine itself, but I happen to know that location has had the job of their, the field is one of my ex-career fields, as an industrial hygienist. That's the environmental and occupational toxicology. That role, that job has not been filled in over a year. And in a laboratory setting or a manufacturing or pharmaceutical setting, that job is so important because it's the job that's ensuring that they are following laws for lab use, lab testing, hazards, making sure like it's running the way it's supposed to. So if they've already begun this and that position's not filled, I'm just thinking, I already have no faith in the vaccine, but yeah. And I feel like that's another part. I don't have evidence of it, but all points lead to the fact that it came here at Pfizer to be developed. I feel like that's another reason Whitmer's pushing hard. There has to be some sort of, campaign contribution, something's not making sense here.
That makes sense to me.
You brought
Sounds
up
like something's crooked.
DuckDuckGo. So, Tatiana, my husband, Nate. So my husband has 3 master's degrees. One is in public health. And him and I have both sat on the, sorry, little moose trying to come in. We both sat on a panel for the movie Vax 2. So when it premiered around here, we would sit on a panel and answer questions. And I remember one time it was when the whole measles thing was resurfacing, that one thing we were all supposed to fear that was going to kill us. And we were trying to look up a study and we couldn't find it. And that's when I first discovered DuckDuckGo. And Nate's just sitting over here like swearing up a storm, like, I've been lied to my whole life. And he was like comparing what was on Google and what was on DuckDuckGo. So yeah, as far as people migrating, I feel like because so much stuff is linked to Google, including, your calendar, now there's Google Meeting, there's all these things. I think that integration of the convenience of everything lining up is going to be what's going to slow people from going over. But I know just amongst, my oldest daughter's 16, she has kind of spread the word when they had to do like a research paper on very controversial issues. And she told people, use DuckDuckGo, and people's minds were just like, I didn't know this was a thing. And so I really think the younger generation who's way ahead of us with technology, I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what happens is when you get total blatant control of information. We're in the information age. It's very hard to control. You can control it for a while, but that network effect will take a little bit longer to disintegrate. We saw, really large networks like MySpace, you mentioned before. It was the biggest social network in the world, but it disintegrated very quickly once something better came along, which was at the time Facebook. And now that Google is starting to really mess with my ability to research, then see you later. I'm out. I'm over it. Yeah, and like you said, the next generation, it's not a problem. I mean, it's not like there's a huge switching cost. I literally changed my default search engine to DuckDuckGo and I never go back.
I'd just like to share something with you. I just got a text message from a friend of mine who's a very well-known defense attorney near Detroit, Nicholas Somberg, on his Facebook. He usually goes and if anything goes down, he's right there to rep people. He had posted that he's not live streaming today. He's headed back home. The rally's getting shut down due to rain, and he heard that someone was open carrying an axe. So I can guarantee you that was not one of us. When I say us, I mean the peaceful people who are basically displaying civil disobedience. So I guarantee you that was somebody who was a plant, 100%.
Definitely. That's ridiculous. So
Agent
stupid.
provocateur.
Yeah, but I mean, do people even believe in that now? I feel like I went on a slightly conspiracy rant, but I'm just down with the conspiracies now. I'm just openly, yeah, they seem far more plausible than the official story of things. I don't know.
Do you want to talk about that for a moment? I'm sure you've noticed maybe on your own social media feeds, but the only good thing about this COVID issue is that I am now seeing people who would never ever post any conspiracy stuff or any anti-vax stuff. And I have close friends and family members that are posting things where I have to like refresh my feed and go, was this a glitch? Did they really post this? And I get emotional, like, oh my God, I'm so proud. You know, some people, this has propelled them into go, these people aren't so crazy. And I think it's uniting people into looking into other things.
Good. I want to see some unification in this country because it's been so divisive. I mean, when we had the Ron Paul stuff, we had people on the left, we had people on the right. We all came together. It was so beautiful. It's so different now. I don't know. What do you think about Trump? Do you think he's going to win? Do you think he's a good thing, a bad thing? Any thoughts on him?
So I'm indifferent about Trump. I'm very neutral. I didn't vote for him. I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not anti-Trump. I just want to say that one thing I've noticed, though, is you definitely don't have to be a Republican to see what the left has done to him. And as a veteran, he's done some great things for me. Now, the way that I see him not being reelected is if this mail-in voting fraud works. Because Biden is not who can beat Trump. Absolutely not. And I really think the only person that could have beat him was Tulsi. Because I think she could have polled libertarians and independents. And I think other than the voting of the mail-in voting, I think that he'll be reelected. And I really think that he, even though he goes crazy on Twitter, which I happen to love.
He's pretty hilarious. We're not going to lie. He's the most hilarious president by far.
I love it. And you know what I love about it is that people are such fake leaders. If they want to act like they've never made a sexual joke, never made some sort of like minor racial joke, like none of us are perfect. And that doesn't make you racist or sexist or pervert. Like we all say dumb shit throughout life. And I just think it's funny that he's just being real. And there are sometimes I cringe, but I like seeing someone real that's not pretending to be some perfect person who's never done anything wrong. And that's what I like.
You know, if you ever see him in talks, I've been watching him. He's very gracious with his team. He is extremely appreciative, and he gives them a lot of praise every time that he's on camera with a number of different people. And it's actually quite a nice quality. I don't think he's as terrible as they make him out to be, but I've never seen anybody get so demolished like Trump has been. And you got to admire him because he's kind of like a swamp creature. He just keeps coming like, rah, rah, getting even more powerful in a weird way. Like the more they hate him, he just keeps on eating it and like getting bigger and bigger. So I don't know. I also think he really likes power a lot, and that's scary. So as hilarious as he is.
For sure. I see that too. I mean, but the funniest thing is, again, the media manipulation is like this obsession. Even before he was like, while he was running for election, the first time was like how much of a racist he is, and he's a full-on. And you're like, hang on, but he's got or a sexist, and he's got women all over the place as CEOs in his companies. He's got people of color all around him. Like, it just never made any sense. But this branding of like these typical sort of leftist strawman arguments are really were really just a smack in the face every single time. And man, this morning I got up kind of early and I watched television for the first time in like years because I thought, I wonder what's going on in the mainstream world that everyone's watching. And I'll put on CNN, and man, they just attack him the whole time. There's not one positive story ever. Even if he does something good, it's negative. And like you, Kirsten, I'm not for Trump. I'm not against him. I'm not even American, so it doesn't matter. But and being more of an anarchistic leaning, I don't care really. I care about people's personal freedoms. But yeah, this definite attacking thing, and fair enough, he attacks them back, and that's the first time I've seen that too. It's like, you're fake, and that's just beautiful to see. Like, he just goes right out and said, no, don't want to hear from you, you're fake.
But that's dangerous. See, it's in a weird way, it's kind of hilarious and stuff, but he lulls us into accepting a lot more tyranny because we feel bad for him, because the other side is completely bonkers, and he's funny. And I don't know if he really deserves all of that credit, because I think he has done some scary things. I know that there's been a lot of criticism from the people around Second Amendment rights, like that he's implemented a lot of things that have reduced gun rights more so than any other president. On war, it's a medium, right? Sometimes it's like, eh. So I don't know. I don't want to act like he's so great. And I think that we run into, I don't think anybody's saying he's great, but because he gets bullied, we let him get away with a lot of different stuff that I don't think normally people on the right would tolerate.
What I think is, what I've been watching, you got to remember the second he took office, he has been just slandered with all these Russiagate, and it was like the sorest loss you could ever see by the left. And I feel like if he gets reelected, we're going to get a completely different term, and I think it will be better. And it's not that I'm defending him; it's just I'm very observant. I'm a people watcher, and I see it in his face, kind of like, if I get reelected, you guys already impeached me, I'm still here. I think his gloves are off, and all these, like, I don't really follow Q, but all these rumors of indictments, I think it can happen. I think slowly, like with Obamagate trending on Twitter the other day. I just think once he gets in, I think he's going to go, well, I've got nothing to lose. Now we're going to do this the right way. Because I truly think he's an independent. I don't think he's a Republican, and I don't think he's a Democrat.
No, I don't think he's that ideologically consistent. But I believe that, I don't know, sometimes I think about if he's a plant, right? And that's possible, because I don't really believe in elections since 2012. I got my, dose of reality. But I don't know, there does seem to be something about him that seems like, I don't care if he's an egomaniac. If he feels called to save this country and do something good, and he's able to listen to his conscience, I don't know. We could have done worse. I'll take him over Hillary any day. That woman is the most horrible creature to crawl out of the swamp ever, and her husband is not far behind. I mean, they're really, really garbage.
One thing I wanted to ask about in terms of craziness with the COVID stuff, what they're talking about now, and in Australia and in Europe a lot, and Asia it's already there, is apps to track everybody's social interactions, and saying, oh, no, it's fine. It's just to track COVID, and it's to keep you safe. And it's like, when I look at what it actually does, it means that you find out days after if you got in contact with anyone that's tested positive, and that means every interaction is recorded. And this to me is so dangerous. I don't even know where to start. Like, you just look at it and you just think, like, Orwell doesn't even come close. Is that something that's being spoken about in the States as well?
Yeah, and it's funny. Yesterday, I actually wore my T-shirt, "Make Orwell Fiction Again." I know a lot of people, and that's what I was saying earlier about the good coming of this, is it's uniting people who used to think we were crazy. I'm seeing people that are saying, I'm not getting the vaccine, I'm not doing this contact tracing. And then in some states, not here, but I saw that if you're going to go to a dining establishment that's reopened, you have to put your name and your information. Therefore, if someone in the restaurant, by the time you were there, they can contact you. Like, I feel like this is a public health tracking of an STD. Like, who did you sleep with? And then they call them. I mean, I know that there's still ways to get around tracking you, but I absolutely turn my location off on every single app on my phone right now. After we're done here, I'm driving to Illinois to my second residence, which I'm allowed to do. And I do it anyway. And I still turn it off. I don't want to watch these squiggle marks. And it scares me when these, I don't even know how they're tracking this. Is it through apps or is it through the cell phone services showing, like, there was a map of Michigan saying, Michigan is defying their stay-at-home orders the most. And it shows people just going all over. And one thing I wanted to add as far as state specific is yesterday it just came out, I believe it was an Michigan Live article saying that we are the #1 state for having the most tweets and social media posts about depression, anxiety, and just feeling useless. And that's another thing, it's domestic violence rates have gone up, suicide rates have gone up, and veterans are getting extra pissed off because, I had surgery on my leg in late January. I've yet to be able to go to physical therapy, and that's a problem. I mean, the governor has caused people to furlough physical therapy because it's not essential to, basically how it's viewed. Her whole thing of non-essential is if it's not immediately life-saving. And when you think of elective surgery, you think cosmetic, breast, nose. No, I mean, there's other things. Like, my leg surgery was considered elective surgery, so I'm glad I got it done beforehand. But I'm literally probably going to have lifelong issues because I couldn't go to physical therapy. I have nerve issues right now. Yeah. I mean, I'm really one person.
To deal with that at home, do that over cross video. You can do that across video as well, especially for exercise and stuff. Very important. Wow. Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry to hear that. But yeah, in terms of the technology that's used, it doesn't matter if you have your location tracking on or not off, because that's just your convenience of like, oh, I can use Google Maps now. But actually the state can, at minimum, triangulate you, but they do it with a lot more. So it's like ocuangulate or whatever, they just use as many masks as possible to figure out where you are. So if your signal is strong and it sort of figures out exactly where you are and hits that, apparently some of these apps that they're working on are trying to use like hashed data, so no one can really tell who is, and everyone gets a new hash every hour or something, and it sort of keeps everything in some sort of murky. But it's still, I don't believe it. This is a power grab, a huge power grab, and it'll, that's the thing, that anyone that heads into Parliament, people please have to remember this, folks at home, anyone that wants to get into politics, no matter if you're left, right, even hardcore libertarian, if you slowly get into politics, you have a little bit of a grain of, I know what's good for you better than you. And that grain can slowly grow like a bit of sand in a pearl, in an oyster. It turns into a pearl. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just more ugly than a pearl. And it grows. That oh yeah, you shouldn't do that, and you shouldn't do that. And this grows. And just like your favorite politician there that you were talking about before. In the beginning, she started off great, talking about freedom of marijuana and people should be out. Now, yeah, ban this.
It's like the Ring of Power, right? It's like some Lord of the Rings stuff. I mean, once you get a little taste of it, you can't get rid of it. And then you've got the neighbors, the nosy neighbors. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell's wrong with people? Didn't they ever learn any kind of history? I don't know. It's very disturbing.
The government learned from history, and the whole neighbor thing comes from, they used it really well in East Berlin, because the Stasi, that's what the Stasi is. For those that don't know, the Stasi was basically private people were told by the state, if you give us information that helps us, we'll pay you. So everyone that was slightly poor would be like, oh, yeah, my neighbor, ooh, I saw her reading a West magazine, or I saw her eating, wearing an open, or like, I don't know, reading a gun open carry magazine, which means, she's so-and-so, or whatever they say. And all this information starts to get collected. But now imagine it just way worse, ridiculously way worse, where everyone's paranoid and the mask and the this and that. I mean, I, for one, don't mind the mask situation, because I'm like, okay, now I can like walk around with a mask on because there's cameras everywhere. Screw you guys. I'm happy with that. But at the same time, it's voluntary. And this is what you were saying before, Kirsten, is that you want to be home. Sure, you isolated yourself and your family for 4 weeks without being told. And this is the same thing with me. Just do it yourself. And then the problem is you get these other people who are like, no, right in the beginning, no, don't cause panic. And now they're the ones demanding laws and regulations and force onto everybody. And this is it's just so weird how humans work, where you get these people that are just so ill-informed, demanding that the authorities that tell you all this amazing stuff, the authorities that didn't keep us safe in the beginning, are now the ones that will, force you to vaccinate and everything else. And it's incredible watching this thing roll out. It's very interesting. I've got to say, apart from the scary crap it is, it's really interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? It's kind of a little bit fun. Like, it's bad, but it's like, oh, it's getting worse.
Well, I do have something positive to do.
Tell us.
So the rally, obviously, like, that's another reason I didn't go to the rally today. I mean, I could have gone, but there was lightning projected and I wasn't about to, have my umbrella kill me. But on Monday, it got moved from today. There was 2 events, but the weather canceled it and it's moved to Monday. The rally called the American Patriot Rally, involving sheriffs, prosecutors, attorneys, other legal eagles, and they're getting together downtown in Grand Rapids, Michigan at Rosa Parks Circle, and it's from 5:30 p.m. Eastern to 8:30. And basically they're getting together and there's speakers, and you will see speakers of all different colors and nationalities, because Michigan is very diverse, and we're going to put it in your face so you can see who actually attends these. And it's nothing but peace and unity. And basically it's a bunch of sheriffs. If you're familiar, Tatiana, I know you know Sheriff Mack, who did the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. There's sheriffs who are a member of that organization that are speaking, saying, we are not going to enforce these illegal orders. Your power stopped after April 30th. And there are stories that have been propelled into the media. I'm sure you heard of Carl the barber here in Michigan. He's a 77-year-old barber who has been cutting hair longer than Whitmer's been alive. He had the militia come and keep him open, and they tried to shut him down. And a judge said, nope, you can stay open until you have a hearing. You have a right to a hearing. And then the next day, yesterday, the Attorney General, Nessel, she pulled his state license for his actual physical location and his license to cut. He said, I'm still doing it. He said he's not leaving until Jesus takes him. So, I mean, this 77-year-old man.
That's awesome. I love this guy.
Yeah, he's like, he's the poster child of civil disobedience. And
if I had hair, I'd be there.
Yeah, he has people lined out through the door to get haircuts, and it's so awesome. And, the militia showed up and peacefully protected him, and they stood on his doorsteps, and there was no violence. Like, that's what it's for. And it's awesome. So there are good things going on here. There are people in high places, and one person I would encourage everyone to follow, she lives near me. Her name is Catherine Henry, and she is a constitutional attorney, and she has put forth so much information on the website. She's put so much memes and graphics out that are easy reads to explain on why Whitmer's essential orders are no longer valid, and what you can do about your rights as far as mask use and things like that. So she's like a local hero here. So Catherine Henry, look her up. She's done a lot of work. And I believe her website is called stopthecovidchaos.com. And she's got good information there. So yeah, there are good things happening because it's been so crappy. people are coming out of the woodworks that normally would never care about this stuff and saying, nope, for once we all have a common issue here, regardless of our party lines. We want to get back to work. And I really think if they pulled this extended unemployment for people who are getting paid more than they were before, they also would be protesting to go back to work.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of positive things. I like to see you guys fighting back. I've got my New Jersey spirit backing up the Michigan fight, and we're going to have our own fight here in Jersey. So I'm on a Facebook page, and that's all we do is complain. So it does seem like people are taking their power back, and the government's not going to be able to do anything, but it is definitely a popcorn world out there. We'll just have to watch and see what happens, and maybe take some of our own we can have some of our own civil disobedience. So thank you so much, Kristen, for joining us on the show. Do you want to send people, how can they find you? What if they think that you're interesting and they want to see your tweets? Where do they go?
So I am getting ready to relaunch my website because it got hacked so many times a few years ago. But you can right now follow me on all social media platforms. It's at Kristen Meghan, S spelled on here. And yeah, I'm pretty vocal. And I'm some local groups here in Michigan. If there's any Michiganders watching, there's a huge Facebook page that was called Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine with 400,000 people. That's another thing real quick. All the governor had to do was say that people were threatening her in there, and Facebook took it down. But we built another one, and it's called Stand Up Michigan. So that's a good Facebook group to join if you're a Michigander or you support Michigan opening back up.
Man, they really they burn me up with that kind of stuff. All right,
Yeah,
well,
really
thank you for sharing it.
Facebook, because they just shut it down. They'll shut down this new one as well. Just get a new group. There's plenty of open source things you can use to get groups together.
Yeah, Facebook is trash. So anyway, you can check out the Tatiana Show on Facebook. The Tatiana Show airs on Tuesdays. So if you guys go to thetatianashow.com, subscribe there. You can check out cryptomediahub.com. We're getting a revamp, so there'll be some notifications about that. And if you guys want to listen to a show that's not about politics, maybe a little bit of love and sexy time to spice up your life, go to proofoflovecast.com and listen to us. We come out with new shows on Fridays, so that's a fun show to change it up. Josh, any final words before we say goodbye?
No, if you want to hedge crypto volatility with physical bullion, secured in Switzerland, insured and audited, we've been going for 5-6 years almost. Check out Vaultoro.com. That's Vault, like a gold vault, and Oro, which is Spanish for gold, Vaultoro. And you can follow me at jshigala, JSCIGALA, on Twitter.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for checking out The Tatiana Show. We'll see you next time.
The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. Hey there, it's time for the show, The Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show. Thank you for listening to the Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at thetatianashow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. You are listening to The Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show.